special edition of Issues of the Moment and NTA Channel 12, your very dependable station. My name is Egidion Iba. Transformational leadership is in focus in this week's edition of the program. We'll be taking a look at political developments in Nigeria, how far so far, and what we need to do to get us to that promised land. We'll also be looking at the role of youth. How can the youth contribute to making this country, this state, what it ought to be? Of course, I'm not going to be doing this all alone. I have a guest in the studio, and he'll be talking to us on all of these things I have mentioned and more. I have with me Dr. Engineer Anyete Upon. He has a PhD in mechanical engineering, and currently he's a senior project mechanical engineer with General Motors, Michigan, USA. He's passionate about education, and of course, he is very passionate about helping the underprivileged communities in our society. It's good to have you join us, Dr. Upon.
Thank you so much, Aditi. I'm very, very glad to be here. Akwaibom, good afternoon, everyone.
Indeed. All right, thank you. Let's start at the very beginning. What do you think of the political developments in Nigeria?
Aditi, since we got independence, it almost seems like we got independent prematurely from the Europeans. We've not been much, in terms of development. In fact, Nigeria used to have a very prestigious role in the world in the days of Tafawa Balewa. I remember him visiting United Kingdom with the Queen. That was the days that Zikiwe Macaulay, Herbert Macaulay, Anthony Nauru, we were proud Nigerians. But ever since then, we've lost the traction. So nothing has been going on in terms of bringing out our people, in terms of putting the wires on the ground, if you will. What I mean by wires on the ground, I mean electrical power. Without electrical power, we are nothing. The whole world laughs, scolds at us. You see a Regana crying, I can't breathe in New York. You know why? Because they're looking at Nigeria. We are not, the rest of the world thinks we are a joke because there's no leadership at the center.
Okay, we'll get to that soon.
But
let's look at the last couple of years we've had democratic rule in the last couple of 17 years or thereabout. How has it been? How have we fared in your assessments?
We've not fared well, although there are some progress. What happens is the presidential system of government, in fact, democracy itself, is a very, very advanced form of government. It is more appropriate in an advanced society as opposed to a polyglottic society that we have. You get my point? We are very polyglottic, fused with ethnic and religious and everything. So it's very hard to make democratic system president to work. But this is what we are dealt with. We gotta use it. But it starts with leadership. Everything starts with leadership. The leadership sets the vision for the country, for the people. If you look at Korea, you look at Taiwan, we used to ship palm oil to Malaysia. Now they are the biggest producer of palm oil, and they are shipping things back to us. So what I'm saying is we didn't have wires on the ground. We have to figure out how we have to put plans in place so that one of the most endangered species are east of the Niger. East of the Niger, all we do is consume. We have churches that are in the middle of poverty, selling hopelessness, selling hope in place where there is hopelessness. You get my point? We must not depend everything on the government. The government has a lot of role to play, for our individuals with 30 billion naira. You should invest in your people. You get my point? So leadership is the key with a vision that drives society.
Not just political leadership.
Not just political leadership, economic leadership. If you have money, put that money down in your community. If there's a pile of trash on the street, hire young boys to pick up those trash. You see, a clean environment, they always say cleanliness is next to godliness. If you drive around this wheel, you close your eyes because you don't want to see. It's like a slum, especially when it rains. When you go to Germany, rural Norway, rural China, it's like you are driving through a green landscape. Everybody, there are strategic locations. Trash cans are placed on every premises, where in the morning, cars will drive by and pick up the trashes. No piece of paper on the road in Indonesia and Malaysia. Why can't we do it here?
Okay, is that a failure of government or failure of the citizens? Because the pieces of trash you find on the road are actually dropped by citizens.
Yes, but the government sets the tone.
Okay.
You know, the leadership sets the tone and said, I've been to Malaysia, I've been to Indonesia, I've seen that pieces of paper, if you drop a piece of paper on the war against indiscipline, you can bring it back. You have to discipline the society. But again, it goes back to education. Why did the missionaries come to Africa? When they arrived in Africa, they set up missionary schools. You get my point? Somebody would say, why do the missionaries set up schools? They set up the school, Edidion, because education nurtures the mind. It brings you from a child to an adult. Education. So education in this state is very, very important, and we're going to talk about this. Education molds the mind, and the leadership must set the tone on how we proceed.
Okay, indeed. All right, let's look at, when you talk about education, it reminds me of young persons. Let's look at young persons. We always heard that the children are the future of the country. The youths are the leaders of tomorrow. Are youth actually well positioned for leadership in this country?
Very good question. The youth have been dealt a very serious blow. Since independence, the youth have been marginalized. You see them campaigning, dying in the process of selecting a leader, but at the end of it, with 1,000 naira, they take a KK to go home, no light. You know, they killed themselves to put these leaders in offices. You get my point? So the youth have been dealt a blow because we never had structures on the ground. Our ancestors never handed, you know, in the United States, things are handed down from father to son, from son to daughter. You get my point? The youth in this, we don't leave any inheritance to our children. Our youth don't have anything to fall back on from previous generation. Everybody, you get my point? So we have to put a slice on the onion ring by saying, look, what do we do here? Skills learning.
Okay.
Skills learning, refinery, constant electricity. That's it. It's very easy to do. It's very easy to do. Our youth are out loitering. They don't have hope. I'm telling you, they don't have hope. We got to put a stop. We really have to put a stop. There are so many, like I said earlier, we benchmark unemployed graduates in Ikorekbele Senatorial District, the Uyo Senatorial District, and Eket Senatorial District. I have that number. A leadership with a vision would have to start with a number. How many unemployed graduates do we have in Akwa Ibom State? Okay, there are 5,000. You get my point? Then you begin to formulate a project on how to, a citrus industry, a citrus farm, where you will make fresh cucumber, fresh juice, and bottle it and sell it to people, you know, to reduce the unemployment. Then you bring in a refinery, it reduces the unemployment. You bring in whatever it takes. The coastline on Mbo, you put a coastline there for wind energy, employment. You drive the gas pipeline, the gases that are being flared from ExxonMobil, you put them in gas turbine to drive the gas turbine to put electricity. You get my point? These are job enablers. And above all, Gideon, the biggest of it all is environment. Okay. Our women, I'm tired of seeing our women carrying things on their head. Give them broom and uniform, let them clean the streets. Cleanliness is next to godliness. Young people in museums, once we free up the street hawking and put everybody in malls to shop, you get my point? It frees up an open area for museums. Do we have any museum in New York? Our children have to go in and see the artifact. You know, the money that we use now is not the money we used in the 30s and 40s. Our children have the right to go back and look at how we used to live. So you set up museums, you set up libraries, you set up sitting spaces, places where you play basketball, like it's done in the rest of the world. So I'm bringing in a perspective. I don't have Godfather here. I have never run for office. I don't owe anybody in the bank. I don't owe anybody. You get my point? It's a fresh introduction to say, look, let me give back to my country, to my state that I love so much.
Okay. Let's look at it. You make it sound so easy. I mean, we could have all of those things if we want. Why don't we have them?
The reason that we don't have them is constant electricity. Okay. Constant electricity is the bedrock of civilization. If New York City, which I'm sure you know in New York and Las Vegas, if power were to be off in New York City or Las Vegas for 1 day or 2 days, it will turn into Oron or Uyo. You get my point? And the people will go crazy. A few years ago, there was power outages in the east coast of the United States. We were reduced to third world. You get my point? A constant electricity is the driver, because somebody, when you know that light is always there, you start thinking about what to do. Do I go into soap manufacturing? Do I go into shoe manufacturing? Do I go into lotion? So you get my point. And one of the things I want to bring up is that east of the Niger, all we do is consume. We consume everything shipped down to us from Lagos, from Abuja. Why is that? We have to demand that we produce at least 10% of what we consume. You know, manufacturing is the key to any society development. And if we have refinery, we are on our way.
Right. Let's look at Akwa Ibom State now. Let's bring it home to Akwa Ibom State. Do you think that youths in Akwa Ibom State are ready for the kind of transformational leadership we're talking about?
The youth are absolutely ready. The youth are yearning for this leadership, and once they are given this leadership, I'm sure they will step up, because they have see a Gideon. They say a tree, you know, when you plant a tree, you see how that tree grows, you know it's going to grow to be a bigger tree. The youth in this country are very, especially in Akwa Ibom, are very bright. They are very, very bright. But the point is that leadership and managing, they are two different things. Okay. You know, a manager, you go into a manager's office, this thing is 3 naira, a manager will give you a naira 50, 1 naira 50 cover. You get my point. And you say, Oga, this 1 naira 50 is not enough. It's 3 naira. The manager would say, take this 2 naira and get out of my office. You know what a leader does? When you go into a leader's office and a leader says, you say to the leader, this thing is 3 naira, the leader will say, take 15 naira. Go get it done. Because the leader thinks that you're going to eat, you're going to take transportation, you're going to lodge while you are at it. So that's how a leadership looks. But the manager looks very parochially, very locally, and because he's trying to pinch the penny. So, but going back to your question, the youth have to be given a chance. You know, you don't learn to crawl you learn to walk by crawling. If the youth I have this argument with my colleagues that Julius Berger should construct the road. The Chinese should come and construct the road. I said, no! Let our children, let our engineers, let our civil engineers get the opportunity. Even if the bridge collapses, then lessons learned. But don't always run to the Chinese. Don't always run to Julius Berger. Don't always run to Italian company to come in and fix our stuff. Give our youth engineers a chance. You get my point? You learn to walk by crawling.
Okay. All right. I'll still stay with Akwa Ibom State. Other than power supply, what other sector in Akwa Ibom State do you think needs to be fixed urgently?
In fact, Edidio, I must apologize. I will go back to power. Power is the key ingredient. Power will eliminate the bureaucratic. Power will bring in whistleblowing. I don't know, you know, whistleblowing. Effiong, you are, okay, let's say Effiong and Okon. Okon is trying to influence Effiong with money. Okon does not like Effiong. Okon picks up the phone and calls the whistleblower number. You get my point? Effiong is arrested. That sets the tone. So whistleblower will be a key deal. But this thing doesn't, it comes when, there are so many bad deals that are done in the dark of darkness. You get my point? Even walking along the street, my friend said they see a goat or cow walking on the street, they think it's human being turned into goat. You get my point? If a black man in Akwa Ibom can turn a human being into goat in the middle of the night, they have beaten the white man who invented the aeroplane. You get my point? You know, let us try to invent aeroplane first before we talk about human being changed to goat. There's nothing like that. But the point is, darkness fuels fear. It fuels superstition. You get my point? So lighting will
so if we fix the light, we would have fixed almost
everything. We will fix everything. It will elevate us in civilization.
All right. Okay. I have been speaking with Dr. Engineer Anieti Upong, a mechanical engineer, and he's been sharing his thoughts with us on the issue of transformational leadership. Of course, you've heard him. For him, power is the most important thing. If that sector is fixed, then every other sector, every other thing will fall in place.
Electrical power.
Electrical power is fixed. Of course, every other thing will fall in place. Let's get a bit personal now. Any political ambition?
Well, there's a party that has just been announced by INEC. It's Change Nigeria Party. You could go to changenigeriaparty.com. It's an Akwa Ibom owned. Let me repeat. It's Akwa Ibom owned. The Tinubu is from Akwa Ibom. Lai Mohammed, I'm using those names just to illustrate my point. Lai Mohammed is from Akwa Ibom. Tinubu is from Akwa Ibom. And the rest of the leaders are from Akwa Ibom. So Change Nigeria Party, I'm going to put my name out there for nomination as a governor in our primary. And I encourage all the youth and anybody in Akwa Ibom. It's a free platform. You can come in so that we give people an option. Again, I'm very appreciative of what Governor Udom Emmanuel is doing. I believe he was dealt a very big card in terms of the debt the state owes, and also the intricacies of transformational leadership. It's not easy. But what we are going to do is to say, how can we tackle the issue right head on? And so I believe His Excellency Godswill Akpabio laid a transformational leadership on roads. Now you can quickly get to Aba and Etina and Ikorekpene, but there is still yet to be done. The Oro Nation has been totally marginalized. You get my point. In me, local government area in Ikorekpene Senatorial District, Etimeko, our youth are loitering, they are frustrated, and so we need a transformational leadership that brings in constant electrical power fused by a refinery in the state.
You know that, let's look at still staying on power. You know that you can only produce as a state, but you cannot distribute. How will you deal with that?
That's a very good question. I will break protocol. If I break protocol and I provide light on constant basis for Akwa Ibom, let the federal government come and sue me. Akwa Ibom will revolt. So I'm going to break protocol. We're going to leave the national grid. It's too big. We're going to set up village grids. There are almost by senatorial district is about 1,800 villages in Akwa. I've done the math. We do village grids or local government grids, and so in this case you are able to manage the generation, the maintenance, and the distribution. And once we get that all locked in, let the federal government come in and sue and say to Akwa Ibom, why are you doing this? Then everybody in Akwa Ibom will rise up in revolt.
All right. Indeed, you're quite educated. I mean, you're very educated. What would we be expecting in the education sector?
The education sector is a combination of degree or NCE with skill. You cannot graduate from school without an evidence of skills acquisition, whether it's a mechanic, whether setting up a law firm like paralegal, whether it's you learning accounting, knowing how to do some accounting stuff. We will never allow you to graduate from any tertiary institution in the state without having a skills acquisition. Education will be totally revamped. From my elementary school, teachers will be still teaching with sticks, letting the kids construct an aeroplane with sticks, build bridges with sticks, and that translates into high school, secondary school, and then a university. Practicality will be highly emphasized. So that once you graduate and there are no jobs, so you can set there's constant light. Who are you to blame? Constant light is available. Go set up something on your own.
Okay.
You get my point? So education is going to be changed so that skills acquisition will be highly emphasized.
All right. Let's look at the area of security. That seems to be a challenge not just in Akwa Ibom State. Of course, you must have heard of some other states around the country. Security seems to be a challenge. How would you do that?
I'm good. An idle man is a devil's workshop, they say. When you wake up in the morning, where I am, everybody wakes up at 8 a.m. in the morning, they rush to the office to work. When you have some place to go, family to feed, you don't think about crime. You don't think about violence because you're too busy. You have your electric bill is due, your telephone bill is due, and all the other bills are due. You have no chance to think violence. So it's all economic. We must produce. We can't be relying on buying and selling. You know, we supermarkets. We're dealing with supermarkets, restaurants, and another thing is constant electrical power will change. I mean, I know somebody asked me, so you think you can just turn on the switch and everything will be well? No, it won't be. But you know, in Ivory Coast, you know, I believe it's Ivory Coast, they have 24-hour light, courtesy of the French. But the problem is that they are tied on with the apron strings of the French. You know why Ivory Coast is poor? Because they are dumping ground of French goods. Even when they have constant electrical power, but because of the colonial France influence, they don't produce, they don't manufacture anything. You can't buy and sell and lift yourself out of poverty. So with constant electricity, rich Akwa Ibomites will be more interested in investing in manufacturing. But one of the things we need to go back to doing is recognizing our heroes, giving the key of Uyo to an industrialist, giving the key of Eke to an industrialist, making the cleanest street in Uyo local government area, the cleanest house in Uyo local government area, giving awards and incentivization of the public to doing the good thing. And when one painting of roads, painting of houses, you get my point. Cleaning, sweeping the roads. So this is how we can make our society more livable and make Akwa Ibom the beacon on the hill, the light at beacon on the hill.
Okay. We talked about industries. I know that's one sector that is very instrumental to the industries is the agricultural sector. We don't need to be producing subsistence, in subsistence quantity to be able to feed the industries. What would you do to the agriculture?
That's a very good point. All we do in agriculture in Akwa Ibom is from hand to mouth. Okra, if you get okra now, in 2 days, okra will spoil if you don't preserve okra. Yeah. You have fresh pumpkin on the pumpkin season. If you don't preserve it, it's going to spoil. It goes back to power, idiot. It goes back to power. It might sound very repetitive, but it goes back to power. With power, things are preserved. Citrus industries will have to pop up. In other words, we have to emphasize a lot on pineapple, mango, pears, eben. You know eben. You know, we have to cultivate that in large. And people look for jobs. They will be cultivated. They will be in citrus town. Another secret is roses. I don't know, you know roses, like if you have a traditional wedding. Do you know where we get roses from now? South Africa and Zimbabwe. And white in Zimbabwe and South Africa are the ones supplying roses to Nigeria, to a rose farm. We can go into that. That is we do weddings, birthdays, and all the other ceremonies. Planting roses is a very lucrative deal. So we can go into that. So you are very correct that agriculture, what we have done in agriculture is to micromanage agriculture, and the reason is because there is no constant power for preservation.
All right. Very well. So everything boils down to having constant
electrical power
supply in the country. Well, I've been speaking with Dr. Engineer Aniete Upongani. He's been talking to us about, he's presented himself, of course, to contest for the governorship of Akwa Ibom State come 2019. And then, of course, he has told us some of the things he'll likely put in place when he becomes the governor of the state.
I forgot one more thing. You have time?
Yeah.
Briefly. One of the things I'm going to set up is called Regional Economic Cooperation Authority. There's no reason why we shouldn't be conversing with Yaoundé. There's no reason why we shouldn't be conversing with Malabo, with Equatorial Guinea, with Gabon, with the neighboring states. So I'll set up a Regional Economic Cooperation Authority so that we will begin to do intercommerce, intertrading, so that a carpenter that is building a casket, which is what they do mostly here in Uyo, coffin, would be able to make enough for the people in Akwa Ibom and then send some to Malabo. You would see a fisherman in Malabo that is catching a lot of fish and then shipping a lot to Uyo in that cross trading. You get my point? So that Regional Economic Cooperation Authority will lift up a standard of not only agriculture but other things.
Basically our standard of living.
Exactly.
Okay, very good indeed. Okay, I must thank you very much. But just before you go, talking about elections which you're going to be contesting for in 2019, what do you think of voter apathy?
Voter apathy.
How do we solve that?
Yes, it's very difficult to solve voter apathy. Like I'm talking to people around the state and they are saying, I don't vote, there's no difference. But now we have a third option. It's always been two political parties in the state. Now Akwa Ibom owns CNP, Change Nigeria Party. They can visit me at nejukong.com. They can go to changenigeriaparty.com. You know, they can contact me anytime. One guy at Akwa Ibom State University Polytechnic told me, now you're coming. Once you get into the office, will you come here? I told him I will come. Okay. There's no reason why a governor should be a governor of the people, a politician should be for the people. If I'm driving along with this wheel, if I was at the helm, and I have seen a lot of piles of trash, I will stop the motorcade right there, and I will call for the Commissioner for Environment and ask him, if you don't remove this trash in the next 1 hour, you're going to be fired. Right there. And I will wait in my car until that piles of trash is removed. The environment influences and nurtures the mind, as well as education. So that is what I'm promising the people of Akwa Ibom State, that, you know, give this third wheel a try. The changenigeriaparty.com, the motto of the party is to create jobs. And you cannot create jobs without constant electricity. Anybody that tells you that is lying.
All right, very well indeed. You need to encourage people to, what would you say to people to make them want to support you? Yes,
you have to support me because I'm like a virgin. You know, a virgin is very precious. You know, I've lived in overseas for a very long time. I've been in Europe, in Asia, in China. I've lived in China. I've lived in Hong Kong, Vietnam. I've seen how people live. And people, when your neighbor is happy, you shouldn't be happy when your neighbor is not happy. You get my point? I'm driving to my brother's house and the road is all gallops with potholes and stagnant water. But when you go to the neighborhood, you see gated communities. What? You have to be able to say, look, let's live together as a community. Let's clean up our streets. You know, I was along a back road, very close to one of the politicians. When I got out of his house, piles of trash on the road. We must not live like this. So I asked Akwa Ibomite to try and give me, and I'm not going to be bribing you, but you hear the message. They said when the sheep hears the voice of the shepherd, yes, when the sheep hears the voice, they will recognize it. So if you hear my message, my colleague calls it Akbani Semen. You know, when you hear the voice of the shepherd and you still want to go astray, then, you know, I'm not to be blamed.
Yeah, indeed. I know that Akwa Ibom people have heard you. The party is Change Nigeria Party, and like my guest said, this is an indigenous party where all Akwa Ibom people should support Dr. Engineer Anyete Ukpong as he tries to transform Akwa Ibom State and indeed Nigeria in general. I must thank you once again for joining us in this special edition of the program, Issues of the Moment. Thank you for sharing your thoughts.
I really appreciate it, NTA, and Akwa Ibom, good evening.
All right, indeed. Thank you very much. Until we come your way again next time, stay blessed.